You ever wonder why, even after all the affirmations, visualizations, and prayers, some desires just refuse to show up? It's not because the universe is slow. It's because a quiet insecurity keeps whispering, "What if I'm not enough?" Most people don't realize this. It's not their technique that's broken, it's their state of being. They're trying to manifest abundance while secretly feeling unworthy of receiving it. And here's the paradox Neville Goddard taught. The very act of trying often proves you don't yet believe you already are. This video isn't about new methods or tricks. It's about exposing the subtle fear that blocks your manifestations, the hidden feeling that you must earn what's already yours. Because until you see how insecurity shapes your inner world, you'll keep repeating the same loop: effort, hope, disappointment. But once you shift from "I hope it happens" to "I am the one it's happening to," the entire game changes. Everything you've been waiting for begins moving toward you, not slowly, but instantly, because finally, you've stopped resisting with self-doubt. You see, most people blame divine timing when things take too long. But the truth, the universe isn't slow, it's precise. What actually delays manifestation is that silent whisper inside saying, "Maybe I don't deserve this yet." Neville Goddard would call it a state of consciousness, not bad luck. That hidden insecurity, the one no one wants to admit, quietly pulls the brakes every time you accelerate toward your dream. It's subtle, that tug between wanting and doubting. You visualize, affirm, even script, but there's a flicker of fear behind it. A voice saying, "What if it doesn't work this time?" That voice is the unspoken agreement you've made with your own limitation. The law of assumption doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your state. So while you say you're ready, your inner world might still be living in lack. Have you ever noticed how the more desperate you feel, the slower things seem to happen? That's not coincidence. The energy of "I need this" vibrates like absence. The fear of not being enough becomes the signal that blocks manifestation. It's not punishment, it's precision. The universe is only matching the story you're quietly telling about yourself. People love to say, "I've done everything." The affirmations, the meditations, the techniques. But Neville's teachings remind us that imagination creates reality. And imagination is not just a picture in your head, it's the feeling beneath the picture. If that feeling is insecurity disguised as effort, you're not manifesting creation, you're manifesting confirmation of your doubt. Let's be honest, insecurity is sneaky. It doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like control, checking signs, forcing outcomes, trying to make something happen faster. That energy says, "I don't trust." And when you don't trust, you can't receive. Conscious creation isn't about control, it's about assumption, assuming the wish fulfilled even when the 3D world hasn't caught up. Imagine someone planting a seed but digging it up every day to see if it's growing. That's what most people do with their desires. The soil of your inner world needs stillness, not panic. When insecurity becomes your gardener, you strangle what you've planted. But when faith takes over, growth becomes inevitable. Feeling is the secret and not the waiting. And yet, here's the paradox. Insecurity often hides inside good intentions. You want to manifest love because you want to feel secure, but that very longing exposes the lack. You want money because you crave safety, but that craving whispers, "I don't have it." The trick, Neville would say, is to feel from the end, not toward it. Live in the end, where fear no longer exists. It's funny, the very thing we think we're chasing is actually chasing us. The love, the abundance, the peace. But they can't find us if we're still hiding under the blanket of not enough. The moment you drop the act of lack and remember your completeness, reality rearranges itself instantly. That's not magic, that's alignment. The spiritual awakening happens right there, in that pause between wanting and remembering who you are. You realize the world isn't testing you, it's reflecting you. The law of assumption was never about getting, it's about being. And when you finally embody that, what once felt delayed begins to unfold effortlessly. So before you ask for more signs or another method, pause. Ask yourself, what part of me still believes it's not possible? That question alone can unlock everything. Because once you see that the only real delay is self-doubt, the game changes completely. And what comes next is even deeper. Neville Goddard used to say that life gives you exactly who you are, not what you want. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but that's the whole secret behind conscious creation. If you still believe you're someone trying to get love, abundance, or peace, then you're assuming the role of the seeker, not the receiver. The world just mirrors that vibration back, faithfully and without judgment. Think of it like a radio frequency. You can't tune into 101.3 FM and expect to hear what's playing on 99.9. Your inner world is that frequency. If you identify as the one who still lacks, that's the signal you're broadcasting. The law of assumption isn't punishing you, it's simply obeying you. It's responding to who you believe yourself to be in the silence of your imagination. Insecurity, then, is not weakness. It's misidentification. It's the refusal to wear the identity of the fulfilled self. It whispers, "I'm almost there," when it should be saying, "I am there." It's the habit of postponing your own worth. And when you postpone worthiness, you postpone manifestation. Because you can't hold something you keep calling not yet. You've probably met people who never seem to struggle. Opportunities just land in their lap. It's not luck, it's identity. They've unconsciously assumed themselves to be the kind of person things work out for. The power of assumption works the same for everyone, but only those who believe they already are the thing they desire can actually receive it. It's like putting on a coat. You don't wait for it to feel warm before you wear it. You wear it to feel warm. That's how identity works. You don't wait for the world to confirm you're successful before you believe it. You assume it, and the warmth of that assumption becomes your atmosphere. The feeling creates the fact, not the other way around. When Neville said, "Live in the end," he wasn't speaking in riddles. He meant, occupy the state of fulfillment so completely that your old self can't breathe there anymore. To live in the end is to stop asking when and start being who. Insecurity can't survive that level of ownership. It only feeds on the energy of waiting. The moment you stop identifying as the one trying to manifest, everything changes. Suddenly, you're the one being the manifestation. That subtle inner shift from effort to embodiment is what the world recognizes as confidence, magnetism, or flow. But really, it's just you, finally remembering your original state of completion. Insecurity feels real because you've worn it for so long. Like an old jacket, it fits comfortably, even though it doesn't serve you. But the truth is, your real nature is wholeness. When you begin to see yourself through that lens, not through the old stories of almost there, the 3D world has no choice but to conform. This is why imagination creates reality. Your outer life can only echo your inner image. The self you assume in imagination becomes the template for everything that follows. When that self is rooted in love, certainty, and worth, insecurity dissolves like mist under sunlight. You stop waiting for proof. You start being the proof. And that's where it gets interesting, because when you begin to live as if it's already done, you'll notice how the world starts rearranging itself around that truth. People respond differently. Synchronicities multiply, and the air itself feels lighter. But the real magic begins when you face what happens next. You can visualize until your eyes water, repeat affirmations until your voice cracks. But if deep down you still feel unworthy, the 3D world has no choice but to echo that belief. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. The outer world isn't judging you, and it's translating your inner conversation into form. Neville Goddard called this the law in action, the mirror of consciousness. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, frowning, and demanding that your reflection smile first. That's what most people do with manifestation. They want the world to reflect confidence before they feel confident inside. But the mirror can't move first. Your feeling is the cause, the 3D world is the effect. That's the unbreakable law of assumption. You might say, "But I'm doing everything right. Journaling, visualizing, staying positive." Yet if underneath all that effort lies a quiet whisper of, "I'm still not enough," your results will always wobble. The vibration of lack, no matter how well disguised, never fools the universe. Conscious creation begins where self-doubt ends. Think of someone complimenting you, and you immediately brushing it off saying, "Oh, it's nothing." That's insecurity in motion. A small act that reinforces a deep belief. "I'm not worthy of receiving." And when that belief becomes your emotional baseline, you unintentionally manifest situations that confirm it. Life, again, is just being loyal to your assumptions. Neville's teachings weren't about pretending. He didn't say to deny what you feel. He said to transform it. Feeling is the secret, not faking is the secret. When you dare to feel worthy, to truly accept the good without justification, the mirror begins to glow differently. Suddenly your world feels warmer, more generous, more synchronized with grace. It's almost poetic how life reflects us. When we carry insecurity, even abundance feels heavy, as if it's too much, too soon. But when we carry worthiness, even challenges feel like proof of growth. Manifestation isn't about controlling outcomes, it's about regulating identity. You attract experiences equal to your self-image, not your wish list. Picture this. Two people repeating the same affirmation, I am abundant. One says it from fear, the other from knowing. One from desperation, the other from embodiment. The words are identical, but the feeling is the bridge. Only the one who feels from the end, who assumes the wish fulfilled, will cross over into the lived experience. That's the real depth of spiritual awakening, realizing that your reality doesn't argue with you, it simply agrees. If you say I'm struggling, it nods and gives you more to struggle with. If you say I'm complete, it mirrors back completeness. The law of assumption doesn't have opinions, only obedience. So when you notice repetition, the same disappointments, the same cycles, don't see it as failure. See it as feedback. It's your inner world sending you a report card. You still think you're not enough. But the good news? You can rewrite the grade anytime. Imagination creates reality, and a new self-image creates a new life. Because once worthiness becomes natural, manifestation stops being a chase. It turns into a quiet unfolding. You won't need to make things happen. They'll start finding you. And when that happens, another realization dawns, one that changes everything you thought you knew about success and self-worth. Here's the trap almost everyone falls into, trying to get something to finally feel enough. The new job, the partner, the car, the number in the bank, all as proof that they're valuable. But that's not manifestation, that's bargaining. The law of assumption doesn't trade in external validation. It multiplies what's already accepted as true inside your consciousness. Neville Goddard often said, "You receive what you believe yourself to be." That means if you believe success will make you worthy, you're confirming you aren't yet. The universe just nods and mirrors that. It's a harsh truth at first, but it's also freedom because it means you never needed proof. You only needed permission to feel complete now. Think about it. You don't buy a mirror to become beautiful. You buy it to see what's already there. The 3D world works the same way. It doesn't create beauty, wealth, or love. It reflects your acceptance of them. When you live to prove your worth, you're asking the reflection to smile first, and it can't. It's only ever following your lead. Insecurity often disguises itself as ambition. It whispers, "Once I achieve this, they'll finally respect me." But true confidence doesn't need proof. It radiates evidence. Conscious creation is the art of reversing the equation, of feeling successful before the success, loved before the relationship, abundant before the deposit. That's when reality bends. Let's use a simple analogy. Imagine standing outside in the cold, shivering, waiting for the fire to appear before you feel warmth. Sounds absurd, right? Yet emotionally, that's what most people do. They wait for the world to validate their worth before allowing themselves to feel worthy. The warmth has to come from within first. That's the spiritual fire Neville was pointing to. If you've ever said, "I'll be happy when," you've unknowingly pushed happiness into the future. That's insecurity negotiating with time. But worthiness isn't earned, it's remembered. It's the baseline of conscious creation. The more you try to prove it, the further you drift from it. The universe doesn't need your performance, it responds to your permission. When you shift from proving to being, subtle miracles start showing up. People treat you differently. Opportunities seem tailor-made. It's not because the world changed, it's because your energy stopped begging and started declaring. Manifestation, truth. The world can only echo what's already accepted within your inner world. This is where feeling is the secret takes on new meaning. Feeling worthy is not arrogance, it's alignment. It says, "I am the one who already has." And from that place, every door opens naturally. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying states. The need for validation dissolves, replaced by quiet certainty. Remember this, you are not becoming deserving, you are remembering deservingness. There's a huge difference. One path exhausts you, the other expands you. Neville's teachings always lead back to this, the inner assumption that everything you seek already exists within you, waiting for recognition, not pursuit. And once you grasp that, you start to sense something profound, that maybe the goal isn't to get more, but to become more aware of what you already are. That awareness is where insecurity begins to dissolve, and the next step unfolds naturally. Hope sounds beautiful, but in the world of conscious creation, it's just a disguised form of doubt. When you say, "I hope it works out," you're quietly admitting, "I'm not sure it will." Neville Goddard would smile and say, "Stop hoping and start assuming," because the bridge between insecurity and manifestation is built with two words, I am. Every time you use I am, You're writing a command into your reality. I am peaceful. I am abundant. I am loved. These aren't affirmations. They're declarations of identity. The law of assumption doesn't care about your wishful thinking. It listens to your emotional conviction. I am plants the seed. I hope keeps staring at the soil. Think about a child who knows their parent will pick them up from school. They don't hope for it. They expect it. That calm expectancy is faith in motion. It's the same vibration you need for manifestation. Feeling is the secret, and the feeling of being supported transforms everything. You begin to breathe differently, softer, safer, freer. Insecurity lives in the gap between who you believe you are and who you're trying to become. But when you say, I am already there, you close that gap. You step into the fulfilled state Neville always talked about, the place where what you desire is no longer something you're chasing, but something you're remembering. It might feel strange at first. Saying, I am wealthy when your bank account disagrees feels like lying, but it's not about pretending, it's about pre-living. You're rehearsing the inner atmosphere of the fulfilled version of you. That inner world, saturated with certainty, eventually hardens into fact. That's how imagination creates reality. Try this. Instead of begging the universe for signs, sit still and feel what it's like to already be chosen, already loved, already provided for. Notice the warmth that spreads through your body when you stop chasing approval and start embodying peace. That's the vibration that opens doors without knocking. People often confuse surrender with giving up, but surrender simply means releasing the tension between hope and fear. It's the gentle knowing that life supports you because you have decided to be supported. When you rest in that state, not fighting for proof, not grasping for control, your desires come wrapped in ease. Neville taught that assuming the wish fulfilled is the only way to dissolve insecurity. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must feel your way there. I am is the emotional password that grants access to the reality where your desire already exists. Say it with conviction, and the universe updates instantly. It's a beautiful paradox. When you stop needing things to happen, they start happening faster. Because now, your energy matches completion, not lack. You no longer reach forward, you radiate outward. That's the vibration of being chosen, supported, and complete. That's living in the end. And once that shift begins, once I hope transforms into I am, something deeper starts to awaken inside you. A new level of confidence that feels unshakable. But to anchor it, you'll need one more practice. Something Neville called the bridge to certainty. Neville Goddard often called the state before sleep the doorway to creation. It's that quiet moment when the conscious mind loosens its grip and the subconscious becomes most impressionable. If you use that sacred space wisely, you can rewire your self-image completely. And the simplest, most powerful way to do that? Imagine someone congratulating you as if your desire has already come true. Close your eyes and pick one person, a friend, a mentor, maybe even someone you deeply respect. Hear their voice clearly. Feel the warmth in their tone. Let them say something simple yet powerful like, I'm so proud of you. You did it. That's not just a daydream. It's a psychological imprint. It tells your subconscious, this is my new normal. This practice works because emotion is the language of the subconscious. You can't intellectually convince yourself of security. You must feel it. When you hear that imaginary voice of certainty, your inner world starts to believe it. And since imagination creates reality, that inner conviction begins to shape the outer reflection. It's like rehearsing success in advance. Athletes do it. Musicians do it. Even business leaders visualize victories before they happen. But Neville's approach goes deeper. It's not about performing better. It's about becoming the version of you who no longer doubts, the one who already is what they used to hope for. At first, your mind might argue. It'll say things like, this is silly, or, but nothing's happened yet. That's normal. It's just the echo of your old state. Don't debate it. Just feel the scene more vividly. The key isn't realism, it's emotional saturation. The moment the feeling becomes natural, your reality begins its quiet transformation. You might even notice physical sensations, a smile forming, your chest expanding, tears welling up. That's your nervous system rewiring itself from fear to faith. The vibration of I am supported replaces the old hum of insecurity. You're no longer trying to believe, you're living the belief. And that's the true essence of the law of assumption. Try making it a nightly ritual. Before you drift into sleep, play that scene like a short film. 2 or 3 seconds are enough. The power isn't in the length, it's in the feeling. Imagine the conversation ending with a warm embrace, a shared laugh, or a sigh of relief. That emotional punctuation tells your subconscious, it's done. The next morning, don't look for results. Feel for resonance. Notice how your day flows differently, how small synchronicities appear. They're not random, they're reflections of your new self-concept. Every congratulatory scene before sleep is like planting a seed in the soil of your inner world, and by morning, something unseen has already begun to grow. Over time, this practice becomes more than a technique. It becomes a state of being. You start to live with quiet confidence, a kind of spiritual certainty that doesn't depend on proof. That's when life becomes soft again. You stop forcing and start flowing. And the funny part? Everyone else starts to congratulate you in real life exactly as you imagined, because once the security within awakens, it doesn't go back to sleep. It becomes your natural frequency, gratitude, calm expectancy, and effortless alignment. And that's precisely where the next truth begins to unfold. Security isn't about knowing every detail, it's about trusting the process. When you feel safe inside, you stop demanding constant proof. You rest. And that resting state, paradoxically, becomes the magnet that pulls everything in. Neville Goddard always said that the world is yourself pushed out. So when you radiate calm expectancy, life mirrors it back with divine precision. It's a subtle shift, from grasping to allowing. When you're insecure, you chase. When you're secure, you attract. The vibration of gratitude and calm faith sends a signal the universe understands perfectly. I already have it. That frequency doesn't beg, it blesses. It doesn't question timing, it assumes divine order. Think about gratitude as emotional currency. When you give thanks before receiving, you tell creation, I trust the delivery. It's like smiling at the waiter before the meal arrives. You're confident it's coming. The law of assumption thrives on that energy. Gratitude is proof that you've accepted fulfillment before it physically appears. Neville taught that living in the end isn't just visualizing, it's feeling from the end. Gratitude anchors that feeling. When you wake up thankful for what's unseen, your inner world sings a new frequency, one that says, it's done. The 3D world can only harmonize with that song. It has no choice but to produce the corresponding melody. Calm expectancy is a lost art. It's the opposite of frantic manifestation. It's not passive, it's powerful. It's knowing that just because you can't see the seed growing doesn't mean it's not taking root. You stop staring at the soil and start enjoying the sunlight. That's real faith. Invisible, yet undeniable. Imagine 2 gardeners. One digs up the seed every day to check on progress. The other waters it, smiles, and walks away. Guess who sees growth faster? The universe works the same way. Feeling secure is emotional watering. Doubt is spiritual digging. Choose to nurture your desire with warmth, not worry. Gratitude doesn't just manifest things, it manifests states. It transforms you from a seeker into a receiver. When you feel grateful for what's coming, you collapse the timeline between desire and fulfillment. The vibration of appreciation erases the vibration of lack. Suddenly, someday becomes already. Security also makes you more receptive. You start noticing guidance where chaos once lived. A random phrase, a song lyric, a coincidence, they all become messages confirming alignment. That's how the inner world speaks. When you're calm, you can finally hear it. When you're anxious, it's drowned out by noise. There's a quiet power in not rushing. The secure self knows that what's theirs cannot miss them. They walk slower, breathe deeper, laugh easier. They trust that conscious creation is a partnership, one between imagination and faith. Gratitude becomes their rhythm, and life dances in sync. And once you begin to live that way, out in a state of calm gratitude and secure expectation, you'll notice that old fears start to fade. But when they resurface, as they sometimes do, that's where the next lesson begins. The moment you start embodying peace, life will test your anchor. Old fears rise like ghosts, not to haunt you, but to see if you'll invite them back in. Don't panic when this happens. Neville Goddard warned about this exact moment, the bridge of incidents. It's not regression, it's release. The old state is simply echoing goodbye. Fighting fear only feeds it. The harder you push against it, the louder it screams. Instead, meet it with quiet recognition. Whisper to yourself, this is just the echo. You'll feel your nervous system calm instantly. Conscious creation isn't about destroying the old, it's about outgrowing it. You've already moved into a new identity. This is just the body catching up. Think of it like moving out of an old house. Even after you've changed addresses, you might still get mail there for a while. That doesn't mean you still live there. The same is true for fear-based thoughts. They're mental mail from an old residence. You don't have to open them, just mark them, return to sender. Insecurity thrives on reaction. It feeds on attention. When you react with frustration, you re-enter the old state. But when you acknowledge the fear gently, like comforting a child having a nightmare, it dissolves. That's emotional maturity, realizing you don't need to fight every thought to prove your power. Neville's law of assumption teaches that persistence in the new state is the key, not perfection, persistence. When fear arises, simply choose again. Assume the wish fulfilled. Return to the feeling of the end. It's not about pretending fear isn't there. It's about refusing to identify with it. You're no longer that version of you. Here's a practice. When fear shows up, place your hand over your heart and say softly, "This is the echo of who I was." Breathe deeply until your body believes it. The energy begins to shift immediately. You move from resistance to remembrance, from panic to presence. And presence always brings power. Remember, echoes fade when they're not reinforced. If you ignore the hallway long enough, the sound eventually dies. That's exactly what happens with old fears. The less you feed them with attention, the weaker they become. Before long, you realize that what once terrified you now feels like background noise. There's also beauty in these moments. They remind you how far you've come. A fear resurfacing is proof that transformation is working. It's the system updating. Each time you respond with grace instead of anxiety, you deepen your new state. The old energy loses authority. You stop being a reactor and become a creator again. This process is the spiritual equivalent of muscle growth. Resistance isn't a setback, it's a signal of expansion. Every time you reaffirm your new state despite the fear, you strengthen your faith. That's how the inner world becomes unshakable. That's how imagination creates resilience. And as those echoes fade, something profound begins to replace them. A peace so stable it feels like home. The signs of healing start to appear effortlessly, confirming that your new state isn't just imagined anymore, it's embodied. You'll know healing is happening when peace starts to feel more familiar than panic. The old urgency, that constant need to check, control, or confirm, begins to fade. You no longer chase outcomes, you attract alignment. Neville Goddard would call this living in the end. You start feeling fulfilled before the result, and the result simply meets you there. Synchronicities begin to multiply, not as surprises, but as confirmations. Numbers align, conversations flow, the right people appear at the right time. It's not coincidence, it's coherence. When your inner world harmonizes, your outer world dances to the same rhythm. That's conscious creation made visible, the outer mirror of an inner shift. The most powerful sign of all is neutrality. You stop oscillating between excitement and despair. You become calm, consistent, centered, not because you don't care, but because you finally know. The vibration of insecurity collapses. You no longer need proof because your being itself has become proof. That's the real manifestation truth. Ease over effort. You might also notice that your desires feel different. What once felt distant now feels inevitable. You look at your goals and think, of course. That quiet certainty is faith fully matured. Neville often said, faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. Healing is that loyalty embodied, the knowing that what's yours can't miss you. Relationships begin to shift too. People either rise to meet your new vibration or drift away peacefully. Don't mourn the drifting. It's divine organization. When you stop manifesting from insecurity, you stop attracting people who mirror it. The law of assumption rearranges everything to match your newfound wholeness. Another sign, your inner dialogue softens. You no longer criticize yourself for being behind. You speak to yourself like someone worth loving, because now you know you are. That change in tone rewires your subconscious faster than any affirmation. The power of assumption lies not in words alone, but in the tenderness behind them. You also start to enjoy the process more. Life stops being a checklist of manifestations and becomes a playground of creation. You begin to notice beauty in the ordinary, the way sunlight hits the floor, the calm in your morning coffee. These simple joys aren't distractions, they're reflections of an integrated self. Physically, you might feel lighter. Your body relaxes, sleep improves, The nervous system, once addicted to adrenaline, starts craving serenity instead. That's the body's way of saying, we're safe now. The spiritual awakening becomes cellular, no longer a concept, but a lived experience of harmony. The irony is that when you reach this stage, you stop obsessing over manifestation altogether. You realize the goal was never things, it was freedom. The external desires still come, but they're now byproducts, not lifelines. You manifest from overflow, not emptiness. That's when miracles become routine. And yet there's one final doorway to walk through. The ultimate realization Neville hinted at in all his teachings, that once the hidden insecurity dissolves, all that's left is remembrance of who you truly are. At the core of every teaching Neville Goddard ever gave lies this truth. You are already everything you seek. The only thing that hides that truth is insecurity, the mistaken belief that you must become worthy instead of realizing you already are. The moment you remember that, the waiting ends. Life stops testing you and starts responding. You were never meant to earn your worth. You were meant to express it. The law of assumption doesn't create value, it reveals it. When you finally assume your worth as absolute, not conditional, not negotiable, the 3D world aligns like iron filings to a magnet. Everything that matches your remembered identity rushes in effortlessly. Neville often said, "You are God imagining." Let that sink in. You're not a beggar at the gates of the universe. You are the creative force itself. The hidden fear that whispers, "I'm not enough," dissolves in that realization. You begin to see that insecurity was never truth, only forgetfulness. And remembrance is instant redemption. Think of a lamp covered by a cloth. The light was never gone, it was only obscured. The moment you lift the cloth, illumination happens naturally. That's how worthiness works. You don't create it, you uncover it. Conscious creation begins the instant you stop identifying with the shadow and remember the source of the light. Assuming your worth doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you accurate. You start to walk differently, speak differently, even think differently. Not because you're pretending to be powerful, but because you've stopped pretending to be small. The energy of I am replaces the frequency of I hope, and reality follows suit like a loyal reflection. When you remember who you are, you no longer ask, "Will it happen?" You ask, "How could it not?" That confidence isn't delusion, it's alignment. Feeling is the secret, and when the feeling of completeness becomes your baseline, manifestation becomes automatic. You don't need faith anymore. You've become faith itself. Insecurity once told you that you needed more proof, more effort, more time. But the power of assumption says otherwise. It says, you were always it. The love, the abundance, the peace, they were never outside you. They were the outer expression of an inner acceptance. Life was just waiting for you to remember your own divinity. This remembrance is the real spiritual awakening. It's when you stop seeking light and realize you are the light. You stop manifesting from fear and start creating from truth. The hidden insecurity loses its grip because you've stepped into your rightful state, the state of someone who already is what they desire to be. And from that state, everything unfolds with divine ease. Relationships heal, opportunities expand, money flows, but most importantly, peace becomes permanent. You stop asking, "How do I manifest?" and start living as manifestation itself. The dream no longer feels distant, it feels done. Because in the end, there was never anything to chase, only something to remember. You were the wish fulfilled all along. And when you live from that knowing, everything you desire rushes toward you, not as reward, but as reflection. So now that you've seen how insecurity quietly delays everything you want, what will you do with that awareness? Will you keep trying to prove your worth through results, or will you finally assume it here and now? Because the truth is, the moment you stop chasing validation, reality stops running from you. Your world doesn't need more effort, it needs a new assumption. The feeling of being enough, of being chosen, of already being it. That's the vibration that makes the universe move. Tonight, before you sleep, try this. Close your eyes and hear someone congratulating you. Let their tone awaken the calm certainty that's always been within you. And tomorrow, watch how your outer world starts mirroring that inner shift. You are not waiting for a miracle, you are the miracle happening. So keep awakening, keep assuming, and if this message spoke to your soul, subscribe and turn on notifications, because there's a whole world inside you still waiting to be remembered.